I've just been chatting to Mel Stride. They've doubled down again on these £2,000 figures. We believe that your leader has said that it's a deliberate lie. Your turn. What are you going to do next then, given that they've said no, it's not?
Well, it is a lie, and the deeper we get into this election, the more desperate that Rishi Sunak's getting. He's lied to us before on Partygate. He's lied to us about NHS waiting lists coming down. Small boats are increasing, not decreasing. And he lied on tax as well. And we've got the highest tax burden for 70 years now in this country, which just adds to the cost of living pressures that everybody faces.
OK, but you're not going to actually take any action about this, or are you? Apparently broken the ministerial code.
Well, that'll be for the Statistics Authority to pursue for now. But we're really clear that I guess the trust in British government is broken. It needs to be earned again. And one of the reasons that we have been so careful to say, these are our plans, these are the costs, this is how we'll pay for it, is that we have seen too much of gimmicks that make no difference to people's lives and broken promises. So Labour will not be raising taxes on working people. We will not increase income tax, VAT, or national insurance. And where we have plans for first steps for change, we fully costed those. And if we need to find money, we have said specifically how we'll raise it. So, for instance, in the plan for a publicly owned clean power company, Great British Energy, we will put a proper windfall tax on the profits of giant oil and gas companies. That will raise the money to allow us to do that. And it's a fully costed pledge we make that will not involve raising funds, raising taxes for working people, especially income tax and VAT and national insurance.
OK, you keep saying, lots of you and your colleagues keep saying working people. What does that actually mean? Are you trying to catch us out there? Are you going to increase taxes that we don't really can put our finger on at this stage? Will there be any any tax increases under the Labour Party?
It means that the people who are working hard and still struggling to make ends meet, that are facing higher prices, higher rents, higher mortgage costs, and higher taxes since the Tories crashed the economy. It's these people who just hear Rishi Sunak saying that the country's turned a corner, that things are getting better, that somehow the pressures of cost of living are easing, just doesn't get it.
OK, but what about unearned income surcharges? We have seen those previously on dividends and I suppose interest and the likes. What are you going to do about those?
Well, none of our plans require us to look at extra tax rises, but we, of course, have got to see what the true state of the public finances is when we get to open the books if we win the election. And we've still got another 4 weeks to go. We've got a job to do to convince people that they can trust us in government and that we can provide the sort of change that the country is crying out for now after 14 years of Conservative failure.
But working people who have a little bit of savings, or working people who potentially have some shares for whatever reason and get paid dividends on those, are you going to tax those?
None of our plans require us to raise extra taxes beyond the ones that we've already said. So a proper windfall tax to set up Great British Energy, removing the tax breaks on private schools so we can get extra teachers into all our schools to raise standards, and closing the tax loopholes for those rich people who are registered overseas but living here, so that we can fund the drive to get down NHS waiting times with an extra 40,000 appointments.
So no extra taxes on things like interest rates and dividends is what you're telling me, otherwise known as unearned income surcharge. Thank you for the clarification on that. What are we going to do about Faiza Shaheen? She is not at all happy. As you know, she was blocked from being a representative for the Labour Party at this election. She's standing as an independent. She talks about the Labour Party of having a hierarchy of racism. How do you respond to that?
I understand why she's feeling disappointed. She fought that seat and that constituency at the last election, but she's been through the process that all of us as candidates for Labour have had to go through. I'm disappointed she's standing as an independent. And one of the really big changes that Keir Starmer has brought in as part of the changes he's made to Labour since 2019 and Jeremy Corbyn is to make sure that any allegations are treated through an independent process. And so any suggestion that there are partial treatments for some people is entirely wrong, because it's an independent process and everybody would go through that if they face allegations, as many have.
Yep. So she says hierarchy of racism. You are completely refuting that this morning here on the programme.
I entirely refute that. We've a long tradition and a proud tradition of being an anti-racist party. We've cleaned up our internal systems under Keir Starmer. They're now independent. There is a due process. Sometimes it can take a while, but it's a due process that is properly conducted, independently led, and that's the process, particularly in confirming us as candidates, that we've all been through.
OK, we're almost out of time. We started on tax. Let's end there as well. Just a challenge from Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, challenging Sir Keir to explicitly rule out an increase to property tax if your party comes into power. Is that something that you will agree to?
Look, there are dozens and dozens of specific taxes. The ones that are most important are those that cost working people the most, those that facing the highest tax burden now for 70 years.
Talking about property tax, Mr.
Healey. We will not raise taxes on working people. We will not raise income tax.
Talking about property tax.
We will not raise national insurance. And our plans, beyond the specific tax rises and changes that we've set out to pay for first steps.
But plans can change, can't they?
Our plans do not require us to start looking at raising taxes across the board.
OK, capital gains tax, will you increase that?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Capital gains tax, will you increase that?
Our plans do not require us to start looking at raising
Stamp duty, will you increase that?
We will not raise the taxes that are most important to working people, that are part of the
stamp duty
they paid after 14 years of Conservative government.
Will you increase stamp duty?
I'm not going to go through the list. I'm saying to you,
it's really important.
So the taxes that are most important to people, income tax, VAT and national insurance, will not be raised under a Labour government.
It's really important to a lot of people. Stamp duty, really important to a lot of people. What about council tax bans? That affects almost all of us. What are you going to do about that?
Plans do not require us to look at raising taxes across the range of dozens and dozens of taxes there are. Where there are moves that we need to make, like removing the tax breaks on private schools, like closing the loopholes on the non-DOMs that get away with living in this country but not paying their fair share.
I know,
those are the things that we will do.
I'm specifically asking you about council tax, property tax and the council tax bans. You're not going to change those at all?
I'm not going to go through a list of. We could be spending the next hour doing this, Kay.
Well, let's not. Let's just concentrate on those three.
There are hundreds of taxes.
Those three, what are you going to do about those?
So we've responded to the lies that Rishi Sunak set out.
Not asking you about that, asking you about... Mr Healey, come on now. I'm asking you specifically about those three taxes. You are not going to change them. Is that right?
We are not going to start raising taxes across the board. Our plans do not require...
Dear, you need to answer the question, because if you don't, people are going to think that you're going to put the taxes up.
So where we have plans to change the taxes, we've spelt those out, and we've said what that money that we can raise will be used to do. And these are steps that make a big difference to people's lives. Starting to bring down NHS waiting lists, starting to improve standards in schools with more teachers and breakfast clubs.
I know, but I'm specifically asking you about putting those three taxes up,
and you won't deny it. So we get clean power and lower bills for the long term. These are the steps we know we can take. We've costed them. We've fully funded them.
My viewers are going to have to make their own mind up because we're out of time.
How we will pay for those. And we've also given people the absolute reassurance that we will not be raising income tax and VAT and national insurance, and those are the things that count
most. You might
most.
be increasing capital gains tax, stamp duty and council tax bans because you won't rule it out. And so my viewers this morning will have to make up their own minds. Sadly, we're out of time. Come in and join me whenever you like to, and we'll talk about it in more detail. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.